Welcome to your Rally Point podcast. Organizations need a reason to exist, and people need a reason to care. But none of it matters if you can't connect the two. This podcast is where nonprofits, advocacy groups, and mission-driven organizations discover their rallying point. It is your go-to resource for mobilizing support, building authentic connections, and driving real results. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's rally together to create the impact you're meant to make. This is your Rally Point podcast, brought to you by rallycorp.com.
Welcome back to your Rally Point podcast. James here with Jack for the next episode. Hey, Jack.
Howdy.
Howdy. Today's an exciting. We were just talking about what we were going to talk about today. We talk about what we're going to talk about around here. Kind of like having a meeting about a meeting. Have you ever been in one of those?
Yeah, it's just so confusing.
It is so confusing. And I thought, we should just hit record because this is kind of fun. We're having a good conversation. So The conversation we were having and what we're going to talk about today is the timing of text messages, the timing of outreach, and the speed at which things are moving these days, particularly around AI.
Yeah.
I don't think I came up with it, but if I did, I'm going to trademark it. I said the speed of AI. That may not even make any sense now that I say it out loud. Okay, good. So I think things are moving very quick. People have access to information and they're expecting more out of their tools. Rally's adopting and learning from that ourselves. We're going to share some of that learning with you and help you think about that as in the context of mobile timing. Like, when do I send a message? What do I say? And how often do I say it? Right. So Jack, before we get started here, how are you, my friend? What's new in the world of Jack?
Hey, you can see the sun is out in Seattle. That is,
that's a big deal. That's something.
I got to say, when this happens, and I just read today that Seattle is one of the most depressed cities in the country. 22% of us are dealing with depression here at this time of year. So when the sun comes out, like I was transiting, driving around today a little bit, and Google gave me an alert that said traffic is much lighter than usual because of that. Everybody's at the parks, lawns, and everything else. So when this just rules everything when the sun is out, and so the sun is out in Seattle, the entire region is cheering hooray, and really that's
awesome.
That's the main idea for me today.
Well, you know what? I'll take it. Seattle is a beautiful, beautiful place. So I like when I go, I just can't get enough of the outdoors, but it seems like it rains and then I have to go back indoors. So
yeah, it's that way. But people are emerging like bears. Like, literally, we joke about like everybody's coming out of hibernation out of their houses. Everybody's moving a little slower, It's like, hey, Ralph,
got to come out and eat.
But it's a true thing. Like, if you've been in Seattle and people that live here, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing. Well, hey, Jack, I'm excited about today and our conversation. So let's talk timing. One of the questions we get asked a lot is, okay, I've agreed that we need to do some level of text messaging or voicemail or outreach, something. And even this comes up with email. It's not unique to the channel of texting. It's just how often and when is the best time? And we have some answers to that. One of the benefits of working, Jack, as we do with so many specific organizations like nonprofits, is we get visibility into what's working across the spectrum of them. So it's not just like, well, I got to sort out all the window and pool cleaners here. All we work with nonprofits and churches, so it becomes pretty easy to say universal truths about the timing. So there are some time of day and some things to think about. But back to a previous episode, we talked about the types of messaging. So we're going to shape this conversation a bit more about informative texts or text messages that carry information with them, or that potentially are solicitation messages where we're asking for something in return. And we're going to assume that we already have a concept of what kind of message are we sending and what's the proper ratio of those messages. Because if everything's an ask all the time and everything is urgent, it's going to be easy if you ignore you, right? But if there's a correct, let's call it 3-to-1 between informational, encouragement, outreach, like happy birthday messages, relationship building messages, then when you come with that one ask, that solicitation, it's not, I don't care what time of day you send a message, if they're all asked, you're going to get ignored, right?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't become so awkward, right?
That's right. So we're going to assume that you've got those fundamentals down, and I don't like to assume anything. So if you don't know what that is, pick up the last few episodes of our podcast here. Or if you're a customer in Rally, we have a neat little AI engine built into the tool. Ask it, and it will surface that content for you and give you that indication of like what kind of message you send by when, and that'll help you out there. So let's jump in, Jack, a bit about optimal send times. What have you learned about that? Because you have probably forgotten more about text messaging than I have ever learned.
Thursday, 1 p.m.
Pacific or Eastern time?
Pacific.
Okay.
But I will say Well, Thursday 103 across the country, right?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
But it's we get to ask this question all the time.
Yeah,
And everybody wants to know the secret sauce, right? And about when to send and how many to send and all that. And I would say that there's a lot of data out there that says, I mean, I don't know what Rally data shows as far as
sure.
like senders and what our customer feedback is,
Yeah.
but we always, I kind of reason with myself and say, well, if I got a text message at 7:13 on a Monday morning, am I looking at it? No, probably not.
Yeah, sure.
Or Sunday morning, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's all these tricks that people feel like they want to be unique. Like, well, I'm going to buck the trend and I'm going to do it at 1 p.m. on Sunday. I mean, you can do that. You run a lot. If you're a church, maybe,
Mhm.
but you don't want to run afoul of your supporters. And so when we talk about using Rally for just that, the timing for those kinds of things should be along the lines of more traditional. Don't interrupt me at dinner time.
Yeah.
Don't wake me up.
Catch
It's
me
important,
after lunch.
right? And it's important to know
Mhm.
like the time. If you're doing a regional thing and you have a time zone thing, right?
Yeah,
Well, fine. If it's a local church and you want to send it at 9 a.m., or whatever, that's fine. But consider your audience too.
sure.
And also, one of the things that there's the general timing of things and when you send and what you send,
Yep.
but also understand that there's recurring timing. So if I just send a message to that list on Tuesday, maybe I should sunset that list and let it sleep a little bit from a frequency perspective
Yeah,
for
makes
a couple
sense.
of weeks. And we're going to talk about that. But yeah, so I always think of it, and a lot of texting is, what do I want to receive as a person on the other end?
Yeah, what's natural?
What's natural?
Yeah.
And that's really from a nonprofit, and we talk about being human-centered. That's
Sure.
human-centered.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I was just thinking while you were talking, Jack, it might not be a bad exercise to just pay attention to your own behaviors around your phone. When do you pick it up naturally? What are times that you feel like you're more attentive, more in tuned, right? But yeah, so you mentioned afternoons. That's what the data shows clearly. Thursday is a great day. That's probably the number one day. Emails, because we track emails as well. Usually, Wednesday, Thursdays. Fridays have been surprisingly good, particularly for churches.
Yes.
Fridays are great. I do work with sales folks and some world, in the world of coaching, that kind of thing. And I always say, hey, Fridays are the best time to pick up the phone and call people because no one else is calling on them. So
Right.
more from a disrupt the day and kind of connect with you before the weekend. People tend to be in a very good mood on Fridays.
I know.
So it is a good time to just reach out and say, hey. But sometimes, Jack, I want to be a smarty pants and say, well, the best time to send a text message is yes.
That's true.
Because people overthink it. They just like, oh, I sent it today, and then they don't, and then pretty soon, what have they done? Nothing.
Yeah.
And what's the surest way?
Let's get a message out.
Yeah, what's the surest way to have nothing done? Do nothing. Like, you want to have a month like you just had from a fundraising standpoint or from an event standpoint, then do the exact same. Just keep doing the same thing that you've been doing, and you'll just have the same results. In fact, I would argue you probably have less results because you just get ignored.
It's interesting. I think we talked about this a few episodes ago. You get that list spooled up. You got 218 people you got these gold donors, right? They came to the event a couple months ago. They're
Gold.
good people.
Yeah.
And you've connected with them and they're core to what you do from a donation perspective. Boy, I tell you what, hitting that send button, you just got to do it. And I would say that the text messages that you send to your friends, do you examine them for like perfect everything?
Not if they're good friends.
I mean,
maybe if it's the first date with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you want to have your spelling correct and things like that. But but I mean, it's text messaging. It's not like a formal invite to a grand ballroom somewhere.
Sure. Yep.
And I'm a big fan of this phrase, and you've heard me say it before. But perfect is the enemy of good.
Oh yeah.
And when it's 85%, send it.
Send it.
Yeah. And because you're never going to be perfect.
Yep. And the good news is by action begets action. So the more action you take, you will begin to learn. And the phrase I like to say is knowing comes in the doing. We can sit back and hyperanalyze everything all day long, do I do this? Do I not? And have, analysis paralysis. But the reality is the knowing comes in the doing. The more you do, the more clarity it becomes. And then you look at the numbers and say, well, hey, when I send a message on Tuesday, I got less of a click rate or less people respond than on a Thursday. That's interesting. Now I know. And so,
Right.
what your truth might be Tuesday and my truth might be Thursday. There's some general rules. I would,
Sure.
let's just name it up front. As a general rule, you should say thank you as soon as you can. I would rather get a text message at 9 a.m. on a Saturday saying thank you if I made a donation on a Friday night. Like that
Yes.
is a natural time to say thanks, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
thank you messages of gratitude, messages of I see you and I appreciate you. You are a valuable person in what you do, and we exist in partnership to do this thing together. Thank you for now. Thank you for always. That can go out at any time of the day. I put my phone on stun at night, so you're not going to wake me up anyway, right? So just say thanks. It'd be nice to wake up to a thank you.
For sure.
Beyond that, so another rule might be, hey, you know what? Avoid late nights and early mornings, especially, Jack, you hit the nail on the head. If you're doing regional stuff across multiple time zones, potentially, or I'm sorry, not regional things, it's not so much a problem. But if you're doing international or national stuff across multiple time zones, 6 a.m. is 9 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So, I have been not woken up, but I've been on the way back from the gym or something at 6 a.m. to get a message from a client like, oh, they're clearly in New York. So,
Yeah.
so just be mindful of the audience. But like I said, first point overrides the second. Thank you is always, I'm always okay with a thank you.
Sure.
But avoid, nights and weekends. And then, look at my third point would just be the general rule, hit send.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. They'll send 100,000 emails.
Yeah.
Because we talk about how personal texting is.
Yeah.
But these are people that have engaged with you before. So go ahead, man. And hit send. I think the biggest, you and I talk about competition in this market and who are the players here and what we all do. And, that's not really something, let the best company win right on that.
Yeah,
it's not something we really worry all that much about.
Yep.
It's actually having our clients have the confidence to hit send. And you said it, the analytics will tell you. And there's another saying that you all can use. It's something I use frequently. Facts and data shall set you free.
They will.
Instead of emotion, right? You get all this emotion like, oh, is this gonna go right? But the facts and data will be in front of you, and they will reveal what's going on. So hit send, do it a few times, one week after another, check your list. And just like you do in other things in other outreach, this is no different, right? If you're familiar with email, you're familiar with these feelings, and get a couple of messages out and then engage with us and look at some of our resources and figure out how it's all going.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And you're right. Facts and data, sometimes we can definitely overthink it. At the end of the day, it's just about getting the message out there.
Yeah.
It needs to be relevant, of course, and encouraging and helpful. But at the end of the day, not having a message go out is not going to get you any results. So we got to get a message out. Jack, as you know, and you do the same thing in your area, but down here in San Diego, where I'm at, I like to get out and meet customers and go on site. I think it's a great way for me to create empathy. I love being in the room, walking into a cold freezer at one of our local area food banks and actually seeing and feeling what it's like to be in. I can have conversations with you on Zoom. We can talk on the phone. We can have worked together for years. But unless I'm in your space and in your place, it's really hard for me to just see what it's like for you, right? As one of our customers. So yesterday, I did a site visit with a group and got to tour their kitchen and spend some time with their team. And while we were there, Jack, there's this process where they ring the bell. So when a graduate of their program gets a job, it's a training workplace placement group. Anyway, so one of their candidates that had just recently graduated from their course had just gotten a job and got to tell the story, ring the bell, and give some advice. Jack, the power of being in the room when that individual rung that bell and the looks on everybody's faces, what you just like, I don't know, man. It's like, how do you capture that moment and share that with the world? And naturally, those Instagram, and maybe if you break out a phone and start taking pictures, it changes the mood. So there's a way to do that well, and I'm not pretending to tell them how to do that. But I'm telling you, just being in the room, you could have sent me that at any time of day, and I would have been okay with it.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
We talk about, we've been talking about here briefly, like frequency and how often to send and things like that. But content can make a big difference too.
Yeah.
And we have a tool, if y'all aren't familiar, but we have a tool. It's rally.so. That's the website. It's
Rally so the world can be better.
right. And what's interesting about it is if I were to get a message pinging me for a donation, I mean, and it's like I contribute to Young Life. I talked about this before.
Yeah.
But Young Life has these camps that are so meaningful for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And for these young men and women, they're high school students and junior high, and it's so meaningful. I desperately want them to send me a video anytime from one of the camps, kid jumping off the high dive for the first time. You know, you get these kids that come out there, these campers, and they're, you know, I've been a counselor there many times, and they're shaking, and like the achievement of them jumping off this high diving board.
Yeah, the elated look in their eyes when they've accomplished something.
Send me that. I got $25 coming your way right now.
Yeah.
And send it to me Saturday morning. I got my coffee. I'm in. So it's timing in general, but it's also what's so meaningful about your message that it breaks through kind of the right time.
Yeah.
You know, it breaks through things for that human connection. You know, we mentioned at the beginning of the call this, you know, AI stuff and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Moving at the speed of AI, right?
Yeah, it's moving fast.
When you get something human, like someone who rings the bell, or
Yep.
or the kid that has, you know, this kind of self-esteem, and he's out on this diving board, that is so much more powerful in a message any time of the day. So it really is timing and frequency, and we could talk about the business aspects of all that, but it's also really content. So our video tool, just on an iPhone, filming that, uploading it right to Rally, so boom, get that in a message today.
Yeah.
It'll do one, you know, content is also a key in the timing and frequency. It's important too.
Well, having worked with hundreds and, you know, now at this point, thousands of customers, clients over the years, both in the faith market, just specific to churches or universities and now nonprofits, I can honestly say, and I was thinking about this as you were talking, because I want to make sure it's truthful, but I can honestly say I have never had a time when I told a customer or a client, slow down, cowboy, you're doing too much. I can never think of a time when I'm like, you're doing too much. Stop. What are you doing?
Right.
Like, I usually have to prod people along. And the reason that's the case, and it's true for me too, it's not like I have this figured out, is because I get tired of my own message and marketing faster than anybody else because I'm in it all the time. And I assume everybody else is tired of it as well. And so I think there's got to be another way to say it or another thing to do. But here's the reality. If you're telling stories and you're making an impact, whether it's kids on a diving board, people in a food line, you know, whatever the cause, whatever you're about and whatever you're doing, if you're telling stories, people are seeing themselves in that story. And they're entering into that story in their own experience. And we're all looking for, there's a crisis of truth, I think. I mean, because there's just so much generated content. What's real? I mean, people are now posting videos on LinkedIn. It's so annoying, but they've got these avatars on LinkedIn telling stories like, oh, look at this. Isn't this woman talking for our brand? It's not even a real person.
I know.
It's completely fake. But here's the thing is you get so stuck on the fact that it's not real, or like, it's like this, it just doesn't look legit. You don't even hear the message.
That is,
and I'm telling you, the medium is the message often. Like, the thing that you're doing is just telling, I would rather see an unpolished, raw, real, 100% you human thing. Like, I'd rather just see that at any time of day than this fake generated facade that everybody else is. It's just like, just give me truth.
Isn't this feeling? And I think that it came about with the most recent release of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
The last week has been a barrage of people that are paying the $29 or whatever they are to get ChatGPT Pro and generate these videos. And when you get something real now, like, it used to be that you'd get a message from somebody and it was AI and you're like, wow, that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
Now when you get somebody from a human who's tripped and fallen in the mud and they're giggling because they're in Africa digging wells for communities that have no water, clean drinking water. I want to see that. I'm rapidly getting tired of this fake stuff. So if you're a nonprofit, just be real.
Yeah, just be real.
Just be real.
Yeah.
Because
the
market is rapidly changing.
And I'm not knocking on AI. One of my favorite little gadgets that I bought recently is this little size of a credit card. I carry it in my wallet, and I just record. You know, I was out in the desert 4-wheeling this weekend and thinking and getting some time away, which is my kind of my safe place. And I recorded 3 blog posts and a bunch of thoughts just by pulling out, talking into it, when the moment struck. And it's great because I get back to the office the next day and it gives me the talking points and kind of
Sure.
bubbles it down. There's no way I'm going to just copy and paste it into a blog post and hit send. It's not that polished. What I am
Right.
going to do is I'm going to turn it into a video of me talking through my thought process and then summarizing the points and then posting that out there. So
Sure.
there's a place for AI and I love it. But there's a
Yes.
crisis coming of just what is real, what is truth, and what is human. And
Yeah.
that's what people want. Humans
Yeah.
communicate with humans. So when you're texting a human to human. I don't care if it's peer-to-peer, mated, like at the end of the day, it's human to human. And
Mhm.
that's what people resonate with. And the more you can draw them in and make it part of their story, they can see themselves in the story, the better. And then out goes the window of any like,
Yeah.
well, 2 p.m. on this day versus 4 p.m. on that day. Just tell the story.
Well, I think we answered our question here.
I think we did.
So-
Well, I hope we did.
Would you pit frequency as important as what you just said, being human?
No, not at all. I think human is 100%.
Get your message out.
Get your message out. And that's why I'm saying, I cannot think of a single time when I told a client or customer you're doing too much. You're usually not doing enough. In fact, if you're asking that question, I guarantee you're not doing enough.
It's 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A great book, by the way, has not so much to do with nonprofits, but it's one that I have our team reading and working through here. And the book is called Never Lose a Customer Again. It's black with a red balloon on the cover. Great book. He makes a point, 7 touches immediately.
Yeah.
It's not so much time on your list that matters. All right. So when you think about the size of your donor list, chances are you've had 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 donors. And you've had people on that list, Jack, I would bet, speaking to our audience, I bet they've had people on that list for years, if not decades, right? So it's not so much the time on your list that matters, it's the amount of content they consume as fast as possible. So, one of the phrases I heard recently that I really like, and I've been borrowing it and using it, but it's called brand width. It's time on brand, not time on your list. So when I say brand, what does that mean? It's your message, it's your promise. What are you about? How much I understand that, how quickly I understand that. And if you have people been watching that or been reading your blog posts or binging on that, like that, it's way more valuable than me like trickling out a message over the next 6 months because I'm afraid I might offend you. It's going to take you 6 months to get a point across.
Sure.
Say it now, say it fast, say it loud, say it 3 times in a row, boom, 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 and then pick up the phone and call them as a human. And that sounds scary. I get it, but that's where it's at. That's the speed of AI.
Yeah. And I say, and kind of wrapping our thoughts up, it's a lot of nonprofits are in a way right now. We can feel it.
Yeah.
We know it's tough out there. And so if there's any time that you kind of like push off worrying about like, oh, I need to send it at the perfect time in order for my response. We're talking about maybe a 2 or 3% difference between Wednesday and Thursday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe, and it's a different time now than it ever has been for nonprofits. So if I can say anything, let's get a message out, get your message out, and then honestly go from there, and let the facts and data
inform the rest. Yeah. I'll add one more thing to that, Jack. There's certain stipulations around regulations on when you can send a message and how many messages you can send in a day. 2,000 a day versus 30,000 a day has a lot to do with what's called a trust score and your vendor that you're working with. Some systems, some text messaging systems, this happens all the time. I cannot tell you how many times a week I hear from a customer, man, we tried to get this thing out to 30,000 people, and it turns out nobody got the message because they signed up for a service that, frankly, is geared to 2,000 messages a day as their hard limit.
Yeah.
People don't realize that there is a hard limit on how many messages you can send from a regular phone number in a 24-hour period, unless you're working with a vendor that has a different configuration and setup on that. We don't have that limit, so we're free and clear there. So I will say the timing of day with a vendor like us with Rally, and others are like this too, but we don't let messages go out like voicemails, for example, to certain times a day. We hard limit that, and we queue them up the next day. You'll get a warning. This will be delivered the next morning because it's after time zone. We build in buffer times around that. And then we'll help you get your message out. But if you're trickling out your messages in small, bite-sized, spoon-fed pieces, then you don't really you don't realize the power of just getting a bulk message out to 30,000 people or 20,000 people in short succession. So I think the power is working with a vendor that understands that can help you overcome those limitations, and then has put in some safeguards where you're not going to really screw it up. Right. So if you start a text message at 6 in the evening, it's not going to be 1 a.m. before it finishes. That
Right.
would be
Yeah.
that would be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So work with
That's why
someone
you
who
go with
understands
Valor.
that. Yeah, exactly. Work with someone who understands that and can guide that. So just with the safety rails put up, we're not going to let you hurt yourself. I promise, because that's a reflection on us as well. So just know we've got you covered. That said, get your message out.
Yes.
Say it loud, say it proud, say it often.
Go,
And
everybody.
then go get it. Go hit send. Yeah, I love it. That's so funny. All right. So the speed of AI. So I know we're coming up to on a close here, so we'll wrap with this. We talked a bit about some of the fake videos and the things that we're seeing and the need for humanity or for personal human touch. But anything else on those thoughts that you think we should leave our folks with as they're wrapping this episode up?
Just that go forward with confidence in yourself. There's a lot of really smart people with the clients that we work with and out in this industry, and there's no better time than now than to build that confidence and go and hit send.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah. And you are, I think one of the things that has flipped it for me when I work with so many charitable organizations and nonprofits and causes and things, and a lot of them obviously are very near and dear to my heart, right? That's the reason I do this work. But one of the things that I've come to appreciate and realize, Jack, is that they're giving me an opportunity to participate in something I would not have otherwise, right?
Oh, right.
And I would not have had the opportunity to be in the room with that bell ring yesterday had I not taken the time to go do that. Now that I experienced that, man, I am motivated as all get out. And frankly, they could have asked for just about anything in that moment, and I would have just done it because I'm like, you know what, this is amazing. But the amount of time and energy I would have to spend personally to get to that place to be able to impact that life is impossible. I couldn't have done it. It takes all of us, and it takes those people showing up every day, sometimes day in and day out, ignored and thankless for so long, just to create that one opportunity for a guy like me to be able to experience that. And then I'm like, you know what? I want more of that. So you're actually doing us a favor by asking us to be involved.
Yeah.
You're creating an outlet and a path to participate in a greater good and giving us purpose and meaning that we would not have in our boring, pathetic, otherwise, gray days of Seattle, right?
Yeah, you're right.
We wouldn't have that if you hadn't invited us into that sunshine.
That's right.
You're inviting people into it. Do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it up. All right, guys. That's a wrap for today. If you have questions specifically, stop by rallycorp.com, mash that button that says coach, sign up for the coaching, text coach to 24365. We have some pretty exciting things coming and some new features around Rally. So particularly our tag
Rally Tap.
So we'll talk about that in our next episode coming up on what near field communications is and how you can tap to donate. For now, that's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.